Hello, internets.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Statto. How you
Hi.
doing?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. You're looking a wee bit peaky, a wee bit pale there.
Yeah, I haven't had some sun in a while.
Yeah,
My
that'll
wife's
do
been
it to you.
complaining.
Yeah, that'll do it to you. So here we are. It's oh, here we go. Right, carrot juice.
Well, it's not wine. I never drink wine.
Never drink. Yeah, never passes my lips. The odd glass of red, perhaps once or twice a day, perhaps. So I'm just going to. Can you hear that creeping sound? That's my mouse creeping across my desk. Who have we got? So, yes. Earlier on, I did ask. I'll just say, to anybody that was waiting in the chat to pour themselves a glass of blood for tonight's show. And yes, that was indeed an invitation, Pete. Hey, people, how you doing? Right. So, what are we doing tonight then, Statto? A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Freddy Krueger and this. Yeah, Dracula. I've still got Freddy in my head. It's weird that.
Really?
It's like, yeah, it's weird. It's like I can't shake him. It's like, was that noise? That was Freddy. I don't know. I almost did something terrible the other day. I almost watched the remake.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think I was possessed.
Have you seen it before?
Yeah, I did. I never stayed awake though the first time, so I never saw the full
After that
film.
movie, you'd want to fall asleep.
Yeah, I know. Gosh, yeah. But I suppose he was the sort of like the 80s version of the guy we're going to talk about here, the ultimate boogeyman.
Well, they had a version or two in the 80s, didn't they? I'm trying to think. Maybe they didn't.
They had 80s were
Monster Squad. He was in Monster Squad. He was.
Yeah.
They had two big remakes the year before, the 1979. One with Frank Langella. One Klaus Kinski did of the the original Nosferatu.
Yeah, they're just late 70s. So I think the 80s were kind of like a sparse time.
70s was probably a vampire decade for sure.
Oh God, because that's my decade when I was a kid. So that's me. I grew up essentially reading blood curdling comic books and watching blood curdling movies.
That's the bulk of Christopher Lee's stuff, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Well, he spanned 3 decades, didn't he?
Well, yeah, late 50s, but he did 3. Was it 3 or 4 in the 70s?
He did. Yeah, he did 4, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Out of the 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he probably did more in the first film than he did in the final 4, all put together, mind you.
Well, he did the first one in the 58, 59, something like that. Was it? And then he did, there's the one Spanish one that had nothing to do with the other ones, where he barely talked.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll touch on that, yeah.
And then he did there's 2 in the 60s. Was it like Dracula's Risen from the Grave?
Yep.
And Count Dracula, the other, there's another Dracula.
He did Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, and he did Dracula Prince of Darkness before that.
Prince of Darkness, the one I'm looking at. And then the rest of them were in the 70s.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're going to cover them all. We're going to cover them all and try and remember if we can actually remember what happened in each film, or do they all blend together?
They blend together for me.
Well, I watch them all the time.
That was when they were running out of budget.
Yeah, I love cheap, low budget Hammer. So without further ado, episode 8 of Wullie and Statto at the movies.
Woo!
And we are talking about the man himself, Count Dracula. So we'll start at the very beginning, because it's a very good place to start. Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah. Love this film. I've got to get a cleaned up version of it though, because I got like a public domain DVD copy where it's a little bit like grainy. You know, the kind you get like
I think mine might be the same. Yeah, it's an old poppy sort of like, not a very good copy.
Kino put out a really nice restored print that I got to look into, where they've got that one, and then as a bonus to it, they've got like the original like German cards and soundtrack and stuff like that. Sounds kind of cool.
Nice. Yeah, I like it when they do that. I don't like it when they take the cards away and try to subtitle it. I like got to have the original cards there.
No, they have the original cards.
Yeah, so this is Max Schreck as the first screen Dracula. It wasn't called Dracula because they were breaking copyright.
Dodging a lawsuit.
Yep, they were essentially the first screen adaptation of Dracula, which was not sanctioned at all. But it sets up a lot of the tropes and everything that followed.
Copied like crazy even today.
Yeah, and the actual physical look of Count Orloff, I believe his name was. That even in the 70s, they used that as the template for the vampire in Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that Count?
Was it Reggie Nader, I believe? I think it was. Played that guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the name though. Was it Count? No, it wasn't a Count. It's been a while since I've seen that one. Let me tell you. Marlowe, was it? No.
Marlowe was the James Mason character.
Yep.
I believe. And Chat, can you remember the name of the vampire?
Barlow. He was Barlow.
Barlow
was the vampire, and Straker was the like caretaker.
Was that right? Okay.
I think so. They had two miniseries. They had one from the 70s, and then they had one with Rob Lowe in 2004, I think. And Rutger Hauer played a very talkative Barlow.
Yeah, you're right. It was Barlow. Yes, yes. Anyway, Dracula wasn't in it.
No, he wasn't.
This is just
but it was very much. You're right.
Hey, Joseph, you've just joined us. But
very much a Max Schreck design there.
Very much a Max Schreck design. It's a film that a lot of people say that they've seen, and I don't think they have seen, but they've seen images from it. And I don't know how many people who say they've seen Nosferatu have actually sat and watched it recently, other than perhaps us.
Yeah, well, on this one?
Yeah. I think a lot of people have seen the remake more so than the original.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't know. I mean, like this comes in like every single one of those 50 movie monster packs and stuff like that. No, I saw it. My brother had gotten me a double feature with this, and I think it was no, this one was by itself. It's like a triple pack. This, Phantom of the Opera, and Hunchback of Notre Dame, silent movie triple feature kind of thing.
Right. Okay. I've got less kind of like a faith in modern cinema goers or modern film buffs than you have. I'm assuming they don't have the staying power to watch the original.
I like this one more than the 70s one, though, I'll say.
I think generally it's a better film, yeah. But I do like the 70 ones. It's just so weird.
Do you?
Klaus Kinski is such a weird.
Oh, I feel like I aged a couple of years when I watched that one. Like, oh, it was slow.
I know what you mean.
But it wasn't bad. No, it was a decent remake. I'm keep on waiting for him to make it again. It's a public domain deal.
Yeah, it's one of these things. It's a public domain deal, but I wonder how much of that's tied up in the legal kind of like matter between the estate, the Bram Stoker estate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one though, I don't think its style has been matched since it came out, like with the floating shadow like that, and the heavy use of shadows and like the messed up buildings and that German style that you kind of saw with like stuff like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and maybe Der Golem, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that this has had a lot of influence on comic books. visuals like in Batman comics and so on. And, they always say that Dracula's an influence. I think this is more an influence because you're talking, like you say, about the German expressionists in the 1920s.
The silhouettes.
And that's kind of like it's a very kind of like stark and visual quality to the work, and that's been really influential in comics, I believe.
Well, we know Lucifer Storm likes this movie.
Indeed. Yeah, Lucifer's got some terrific black and white artwork for his comic that he's working on as well. So I think there's a certain affinity there with I'm just going to guess, with the expressionistic approach. But yeah, so this is really here because this is what started it all. And it's a terrific little movie. If nobody's seen it, give it a watch.
Very
you can
easy to find
everywhere. Yeah,
pretty much public domain.
Whoa. And then give this one a watch as well, which actually there's quite a few here, but I've been cheeky. I've put in both of Bela Lugosi's Universal horror movies where he played Dracula. He only played Dracula in 2 of the Universal horror movies, the original Dracula and in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And in both cases, he played the part perfectly. Didn't miss a beat.
Oh yeah, he had a better grasp of English by Abbott and Costello, so he didn't sound quite as creepy. Of course, it was a comedy, so that fit perfectly. But
indeed, did not know that. That sounds quite interesting, actually.
It's possible. I feel like Nosferatu is like fallen apart so many times from like start to stop. Everybody wants to make it, but it'd be a great thing to have now. I mean, with what's going on in the world, and he's like a character literally spreading disease and stuff like that.
That's an interesting thing because you think about the vampire and what he's become in recent years, quite anodyne with the Twilight series. It's perfect, like you say, to be reimagined in a kind of like a post-COVID society.
It's not the first kind of thing time they did that. I remember when Godzilla came out in 2014 after the tsunami, they used that in the movie like he was a force of nature, and they made it an allegory for it.
Yep.
Oh, this movie, I'm a little indebted to it because, I mean, I remember first time I saw the Lugosi one, and due to the censorship at the time, they really couldn't use rats, so they had like armadillos in there. So Dracula had the nastiest armored rats you would ever seen. What an infestation! But they did get it right for the Spanish version here. Technically, on a technical level, this movie beat out the Lugosi one.
Yeah, we maybe talked about this when we did our Universal stuff a wee bit, but because you had, if anyone doesn't know, they would film the American version of Dracula during the day, and then in the evening, the sets would still be standing to bring in the second crew to film the Spanish language version with an entirely Spanish-speaking cast. And we see Carlos Villarius.
I do think Dracula, Bela Lugosi was the better Dracula, but I really like Lupita Devar from this one as like standout performances.
I'm not going to argue with that. I like the American version better because it's odder. it's a bit slower, but it's just so weird. Such an odd movie.
But these guys tried a heck of a lot harder.
They do. They try a lot harder to actually make a good movie. But sometimes, good isn't as good as odd. But if you haven't seen this and you do have a DVD of Dracula that you bought in the last 20 years, there's a good chance this is an extra on it.
The Legacy Collection will have it.
Yeah, and pretty much any copy you can buy now will have it on there as a little extra, and it's an interesting watch. It feels more modern than the original Bela Lugosi Dracula for the time. Right.
Son of Dracula. This one, I don't know. It seems a little forgettable for me. I think compared to the other ones. Wasn't his character. I didn't think.
Just like to say, I always give 2 thumbs up to Burnley as well.
Oh yeah,
and I say, hoi hoi. I like this one. I like Lon Chaney Jr. As you know, I'm a big fan of the Wolfman.
Oh, of course.
So I like Lon Chaney Jr. as a slightly overfed looking Dracula, has to be said.
Yeah,
He's not, it doesn't look as if he's got any cravings for any feed. But yeah, and it's got this weird setting, kind of like the bayou, isn't it? It's
yeah, that's a weird one.
It's a weird one, but yeah, I do like it.
Bayou's got vampires too, I gotta admit.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting one. He's not actually the son of Dracula. He is actually, spoiler, Dracula. Because we're very strict here. We're only having Dracula movies. I believe is this the first use of Alucard?
Yeah. When he's just using his name backwards. And
see when you're 9 years old, that's amazing.
Like, whoa, it was in plain sight the whole time.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's not going anywhere because we're going to come across Alucard a few more times. But yeah, he was a Count Alucard, and then some. You've kind of like, you get people kind of go, and they're right backwards, and it is of course Dracula. But I think it's a must-see film. There was the Dracula's Daughter, which Dracula's not in, so I've left that out.
Yeah,
because that was a direct sequel.
It was kind of funny, like they have the for that one they have his demise in the beginning, and it was just like they opened the coffin, and it was like,
yeah, it sounds like an advert for Rennie's or some kind of like some kind of like something you take for bad indigestion. Rather than the dying vampire. No, John Carradine. Talk of the devil.
You got it worst. Like what do they like? Pitch his coffin out of a moving thing in the daylight in one of them, and
yeah, it was like a western.
And then the other one, they just walked into like the basement and opened the coffin in daylight, and he got it bad.
It was a shame because he was the most kind of like I don't know. He was the poshest. He had the most to say. He fit in with the other characters. Yeah, he was like you could imagine him seducing everybody around him. But they didn't have time for that because they only had 80 minutes. They had to get Dracula, the Mad Doctor, the Wolfman, the Frankenstein's monster, and the Hunchback.
But he was a big star back then.
He was, yeah. He what was it? He made about 800 odd movies or something. I think it was he's got the record for the most movies anybody's been in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And but 20 of them are really good.
But yeah, he does get lost in the shuffle in these movies. I mean, being mega crossovers.
I think when I was a wee kid, he was my favourite.
Is that right?
When I was watching these films, yeah, I think I'm not too sure why, but I think it was because the 40s movies had a certain polish to them, and they really moved, and that kind of appealed to me when I was a kid. So I think it was also the Wolfman was like that because it had a more polished feel to it as a movie.
They were getting it down at that point because horror movies were really new in the 30s.
Yeah, definitely.
As, America was concerned.
Yeah, I'm going to unveil this one. Right now, I don't know what we need. I don't know if we should really say too much about this. But this is before Hammer's Dracula, and this is a Turkish Dracula in Istanbul. And I do believe, as the research has shown, it may be wrong, but I do believe it's the first use of the actual sharp fangs for Dracula in a movie, because prior to that, he didn't have the fangs.
Couldn't use them.
Yeah. And it's like, but, Turkey, they're like, hey, fangs. But other than that, I don't think we get too much to say about this movie tonight.
Right.
Maybe some other night, though. Yeah, that's a wee teaser for you.
So obscure. Indeed.
It's a bit, we are going to unveil it to the world at some point, Statto.
That's right.
Okay, so 1958. Hammer Studios, hot on the success of 1957's Curse of Frankenstein, are now looking for more properties to mine and create a modern retelling of, and Dracula was next. And Christopher Lee was Dracula, and Peter Cushing was the brilliant Van Helsing. Horror of Dracula is what it was called in America.
Mm-hmm. He was pretty much superior to Edward Van Sloan in almost every way. I think he was a lot smarter too. The character was.
Yeah, but Hammer had this brilliant idea with both Frankenstein and with Dracula, and they made them Van Helsing and Frankenstein men of science. So it was this whole idea you had vampires that were mythical creatures, and then you had the person who was fighting against them was a man with a logical brain that was trying to find out exactly what made them tick and how to defeat them. Mm-hmm. That really appealed to me as a kid. I really liked that. He was kind of like the Carl Sagan of vampire hunters, you know. So kind of appealed to me.
There was a heck of an attention to detail to this movie. Just, I mean, in the character, kind of how they played. Like, I could point to that one point where he's chasing Dracula and he runs back and throws a cross in the coffin, so Dracula can't get back into that.
Yeah.
Little weird things like that just blew me away the first time I saw this. And it was only about 10, 12 years ago I got to see this one for the first time. This was a later arrival for me just because it wasn't really available. I was able to buy it, and I got a 4 film favorites kind of with this one and, let's see, I think 74, Taste the Blood of Dracula, and Dracula's Risen Beyond the Grave 4-pack.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm again. It's like as I usually end up saying. I saw it when I was like a kid, school kid. We had a double bill every Saturday evening on the BBC. They would show an old Universal horror movie, and then they would show a more recent coloured horror movie, and that would be like a Hammer film or an Amicus film or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I saw these films in a matter of months over 2 or 3 years. And yeah, in sequence as well for the most part. So this was the first Hammer Dracula that I saw on TV. Mm-hmm. And that's probably my favourite Dracula film, even to this day.
From soup to nuts, just beginning to end, overall kind of thing, this is the one?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And Christopher Lee, the whole idea, when he first appears, he just seems normal.
Right.
Yeah. Which
he should.
Well, he should, but to be honest, it's about the first and last time that he ever seems normal in any of the Hammer Dracula movies.
Right. Well, this is the one that he wanted to do. Yeah, I think he maybe wanted to do 2 Dracula movies, this one and then that Spanish one. And because that one was much closer.
Well, he always had a copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula on set. I think he always wanted to do the proper Bram Stoker Dracula and read the lines from the book, because there are some great lines in the book.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to read them, and he was never allowed to, but he always tried to push 1 or 2 in wherever he could.
I know he was a stickler whenever he did an adaptation. This includes Lord of the Rings, for like bringing it to life accurately.
Yeah.
Versus just throwing in whatever you want and tossing. I know he hated that. He'd said so in interviews how much he hated when they messed with things.
Yeah. I think some people probably got annoyed by the fact he was so pernickety, but I would have loved that. I would have loved to be on set and there's Christopher Lee saying, "Excuse me, but you don't do it that way. You do it this way," you know.
Right, and it's funny because I mean later on, you know, of course you're going to go, "That's Christopher Lee." You leave it to him, but with his like commanding kind of presence when he started out,
exactly,
it seemed like a little bit like, who this guy think he is.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this was yeah, I mean, this is a classic. If anyone hasn't seen this, they got to see it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
that's on the show.
I mean, I think as a kid, I think probably my 2 favourite actors in the world were Jimmy Stewart and Peter Cushing.
I love Peter Cushing.
Very similar, but in completely different kind of roles. But yeah, I think this had a huge impact on me as a kid, as it did with Pete Bakewell. They're saying the same as myself. It's like I think there's a lot of kids of a certain age in the UK were sitting up late. Great parents allowing them to sit up and watch these Hammer movies.
As huge a fan I am of Jimmy Stewart, and I've got a ton of his movies. I think that our Van Helsing here had a bit of an advantage over him because he could play villainous much better than Stewart could. You rarely believed Stewart was such a good guy, everyman kind of thing, whenever he did try to play a villain, and he did in a couple of movies. Kind of like, well, I can't spoil one of them because it's a mystery movie, but when he did Rope, and he was playing like that professor that was like, you know, maybe they should be allowed to kill people and stuff like that. It just didn't feel like Jimmy Stewart at all. But when Peter Cushing played Frankenstein and he played Van Helsing, I mean, you could believe both roles, but you know, he was so nasty as Frankenstein.
Yeah, I mean, he's brilliant in Frankenstein. I think it was in Revenge of Frankenstein, where he's a doctor to all these rich ladies, and then they're trying to get their daughters married off to him, and they're practically throwing them up. He's just got complete and total contempt for all of them.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
brilliant to watch. It's just the way he plays it. It's like he's only dedicated to this one thing, this science, and what he's going to do. If nobody's seen Revenge of Frankenstein, anybody there, it's not shown that often, but it's a really good film.
I could tell he was losing a taste for the Frankenstein movies, though, after that one scene where he had to force himself on a woman. He didn't want to do it. And
yeah, I don't think anybody wanted to do that, because I believe it was like the producer came to him and said, yeah, we've got, financiers are wanting us to sex it up, so we have to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, it just didn't seem right that was the problem. I think that was a problem with Hammer, like falling behind the times of going in that direction, and they kind of refused to, and when they did, it was really awkward. It didn't fit.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases it can be awkward and fun, but in that case, that was a misstep in an otherwise really good film as well. That was Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. I don't know. That would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
I doubt it.
Yeah,
I think he had his own singular vision. I think that would have bogged it down.
Yeah.
Now, Tim Burton did a Dracula movie, I'm sure.
Yes, that would have been chock-a-block with lots of old geezers that only we would have recognised. Right.
You got now.
Well, I'm going to take a wee bit of a journey now.
I haven't seen either of these.
You haven't? Okay, well, Return of Dracula is actually quite good fun.
Okay.
It's like an American sort of, it was made in 1958, right off the back of Horror of Dracula, just to make money.
It's like a mockbuster.
Yeah, exactly. And it's if you're in the right mood, it's a perfectly acceptable sort of like AIP sort of style kind of movie. Billy the Kid versus Dracula, which has our friend John Carradine, is awful. It's truly, truly bad. I could not. It sounds like it's going to be brilliant, to be honest with you. It's like Billy the Kid and Dracula, but it is absolutely awful. But it's been that many years since I've watched it. I do now find myself feeling that I maybe should give it another go.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I think so. And now I don't know. I mean, if you any idea who these guys are down at the bottom here? See hi, Christopher. Okay, to your right, the chap there is Frank Langella. No, Frank Langella.
Oh, I was going to say. Who is it?
Louis Jourdan.
Okay.
Louis Jourdan, who is, of course, famous to everybody as the bad guy in Octopussy. But he played Dracula in 1979 in a BBC adaptation, which was really good.
That's the one. Are we talking about that later?
I don't have a slide for that.
All right, we'll talk about it now.
But we will probably talk about it later. Yeah,
that's the most accurate, I think.
Yeah, so we can come back to that. But I did also put in here, like, because I thought I'm not going to get slides forever, and we'll be here until next Tuesday.
Oh my gosh!
But the chap in the specs is actually Denham Elliott. He played Dracula in a TV adaptation as well, which I didn't know much about, and I'm now so curious, and I have to see it. Because that's Denham Elliott, who of course was Indy's pal in the Raiders movies, as Dracula. Again, another well-fed looking Dracula,
right?
By the looks of things. But yeah, so the point of this slide was just to say that it's got legs. Dracula's got legs, but it's just every decade you're going to get some kind of version of Dracula. And the minute that Hammer made Horror of Dracula, that kind of set the whole ball rolling again.
Yeah.
Well, they did a direct sequel called Brides of Dracula, but Dracula wasn't in it.
That's kind of weird.
It's weird because it's a good film.
Oh, the Brides. Yeah, that was a good. Was that the one with the red-haired vampire?
Yeah.
Yeah, real
Count
like
Mitterhouse.
Posh. That one made me laugh with Van Helsing just kind of, he kind of is like, and Van Helsing just not even breaking stare pulls the cross out and it's like it's on. There's should have been a versus screen.
It did. Yeah. Jesse James Meets Frankenstein's Daughter I have not seen. That's a hole in my viewing that I'll have to correct.
Billy the Kid.
Yeah, I'll have to correct that. But Dracula did come back in Dracula Prince of Darkness. But Van Helsing didn't, unfortunately. Christopher Lee so hated the script that he refused to say any dialogue.
Which made it better.
Which I think, which kind of made it better. He becomes almost, because he's resurrected, it feels as if they've resurrected him as the essence of Dracula rather than the character he was in the first movie. It's almost like he's just some kind of like demonic possession that's there.
It's so funny when you don't know like the details of behind the scenes. You're like, oh, he gave such a chilling performance, and then when you find out why he wouldn't talk,
I'm not saying this crap. I'm not saying it at all. Yeah, but it does have Andrew Keir as Father Sandor, who I thought was quite a good foil for Dracula in this movie. Like sort of like the action movie monk. He got his own comic strip as well in House of Hammer, the comic in the 70s. They spun him off in his own comic.
I think they gave Christopher Lee a lot of leeway in these movies because he was basically held hostage by the studios, kept on selling posters with him in it, and then telling him, if you don't do this, you're going to put a lot of people out of work.
Yeah, he did have, like, I believe, a total contempt for all of these movies. I think he maybe, I mean, I liked working with Peter Cushing and all the actors and everybody he worked with on them, but I think you can kind of see why. I mean, if you're going to be typecast and he's getting typecast as just a snarling sort of like a vampire, you know, when he's an actor, you know, you kind of can't see why. But I'm glad he made them all.
Well, eventually this kind of thing became Peter Cushing's lifeline because he was trying to get him to do these movies just to get him out of the house after the tragedy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is a wonderfully, you know, friend thing to do when you don't even want to do the movie.
No, it is. There's some great footage and pictures of them both together around about that time as well that you can find online. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's the kind of thing you get from a old school actors with kind of like a repertory theatre sort of like background where they do actually treat each other as human beings and as if they're family, which is nice.
Yeah. They're in a movie. What was it called? Scream Again.
Oh yes.
Yep. You had John Sheridan. You had Peter Cushing, Vincent Price, and Christopher Lee. It was like the Expendables for a horror movie. It was like a horror comedy, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah. It was actually based on a science fiction novel.
Just having a great time.
Yeah. And it was, I'm sure Peter or somebody will correct me. I'm sure it was directed by, I've forgotten his name, Gordon Hessler, directed by Gordon Hessler, who made The Golden Voyage of Sinbad and he also made a Shogashugi ninja movie called Pray for Death. So that guy had a hell of a career.
Oh yeah. I mean, to get them all together like that, you must have had some kind of pull.
Yeah, it was. I believe it's not a good movie, though, is it?
No, it's a
terrible
I think
movie.
It's a novelty of seeing all your favorite horror guys on together.
Yeah, it is. It's a highly entertaining bad movie.
Yeah,
I think. So some people might think it's a really good movie. I don't know. There could be an argument for that because
nostalgia goggles would probably be on for that one.
Yeah, I think so. But I saw it as a kid, so I kind of like it. I kind of love it, even though it's pretty bad. This is Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Interesting movie, this one.
Yeah, it's got an interesting advertising campaign that they use in America, which you can see here, which was two Band-Aids. They're almost treating it like it's a comedy.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
No, not at all. This is like a 1968, and you've got like a priest who's kind of a conscience of faith, and he's kind of like he's losing it, and then he's turning into the dark side, and then you've got like the young folk that Dracula's going to take vengeance on the Monsignor, I believe it is, by going after his stepdaughter or niece. I can't quite remember. Only watched it about 3 weeks ago, but I can't quite remember. It's a very interesting film. It's really good look. It's got a fantastic sort of like the cinematography, and it's great because it's made by Freddie Francis, who was a terrific cinematographer. Worked with went on
This
to
was
work
a
on.
weird one though, because I mean, they did like instead of day for night, they did this weird like blurry yellow.
Yeah, there's lots of filters.
It really looked like when I first watched it, I thought like, my goodness, they let the film distort like crazy. What happened? Did they partially expose it to air or something? But House of Long Shadows was the other one too that I'd forgotten about. But I thought like it was a bad print when I first got it, even though it was on a TCM thing. So they usually try to get the best prints on those. Like you could see like the middle picture over there with Christopher Lee standing there, with all that yellow and like weird kind of disorienting kind of stuff. But
he was playing around with all these gels and colored overlays, and I like it. I thought it looked great. Right? So
that's a heck of a conflict.
Yep. That's right. That kind of appealed to me. But the picture there with the big stake, the guy that hammers it into him as an atheist. So unfortunately, because he doesn't believe,
he can't Dracula
can pull the stake out, and so he's kind of, that's a slight problem that he has there. I always was slightly confused by it myself though, because it appears that you can use anything as a cross to make Dracula run away from you. You know, so I
think they expanded the rules in this movie.
stretching that a little bit there, considering that in previous films have been using candlesticks and everything else, you know.
Right.
But it is a good idea. It's a good idea.
Well,
it shows that they were trying different things.
That was kind of something that they sort of solidified. I think it was, I want to say in, it was the 80, Fright Night, where it was kind of like, you know, you can have anything as a cross, but if you don't have the faith to back it up, it's just useless. You could have a cross, and if you don't have the faith to back it up, it's really useless.
That's it. So, and that's kind of like, I suppose that also comes from the Fearless Vampire Killers.
Oh yeah, the Roman Polanski flick.
Yeah, where you've got the oy vey if you got the wrong vampire, you know, but it's like it's the faith of the person that's the important thing.
I remember that one. I haven't watched it since I was a kid. Yeah. I remember it. What do we got here?
We have the Magic Christian.
Haven't seen it.
From the useless atheist who couldn't kill Dracula, we now have the Magic Christian. Never heard of it. It's a crazy psychedelic 60s movie with Peter Sellers, Ringo Starr, and it includes a sequence with Christopher Lee as Dracula. It also has Dave Prowse in there as Frankenstein's monster. It makes no sense whatsoever as far as I can remember. It's a wacky, crazy 60s movie, but I've included it because he does appear as Dracula in this movie, as you can see there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I messed that up, and he was on set for a day, and they were like, "Hey, you want to?"
Pretty much. Maybe a couple of days even, because it was the 60s, so they probably had a lot of money to throw about for people to turn up and do these things.
Ringo Starr liked weird movies like with that, Caveman?
Yeah.
With Dennis Quaid?
He was that. Yeah, that was odd. Had his wife in it, didn't it? Spy Who Loved Me. What's her face?
Oh, man.
Barbara Bach.
Yeah. But no, I'd never heard of this one.
No, I thought I'd throw it in there because I figured a lot of people probably didn't know what it was. But the Magic Christian.
Interesting.
And from the ridiculous to the sublime.
Like that poster.
It's a terrific poster, isn't it? This is up there as one of my favorite Hammer movies. Taste of Blood of Dracula.
Really?
Yeah.
Good title. What do we have?
Yes, definitely hunted down. Yeah, don't watch it sober. I love this movie. This is again, it's got a terrific kind of like a cast of like British character actors in it, and Dracula takes a kind of like a secondary role in it. He's almost there as a presence, affecting everybody else.
Oh yeah, I think that was his deal. Like, if you're gonna get me, I'm gonna show up for 5 minutes at the end of the movie, and maybe in the beginning for a couple of minutes, and then I'm done. They probably had him for like 3 days shooting or something like that.
Most likely, yeah. But yeah, no, I think this is a terrific movie because it deals with like the whole idea of these like wealthy men who've got everything in their society, and they're thrill seekers, and they're out there just everything's just to to get the next kick, the next thrill, and drinking the blood of Dracula is going to do that for them. And of course, it's this kind of generational thing where Dracula takes his vengeance through the young daughters and sons of these kind of thrill-seeking old men. I just think it's a really good film. There's lots of subtext and depth to it if it's there, if you want to try and look for it. But equally, it's just a really well-made Hammer movie. It suffers from the one thing that I think most of his movies suffer from, and that's the conclusion is usually a wee bit lame whenever they get rid of Dracula.
Right. Well, I think these are a lot like Godzilla movies in that Dracula's only there for about 5 minutes, but that's really mostly what people remember is Christopher Lee in these movies. Just like Godzilla, everyone's like, well, the Godzilla movies are great. You go back and watch them. He's really only there for the last 10, 15 minutes and maybe a couple of small spots to kind of tide you over, but they didn't use those suits as much as people thought.
No.
He wasn't in these movies as much as people kind of remember.
Yeah, exactly. It does have, I guess it's the first use of the proper red, fully red, sort of like contact lenses, which
those
I really
must have
like.
Been painful.
Yeah, but
they would have
really
been made of glass at that point, I think.
Oh, totally. You can see that especially in Blu-ray with the close-ups. You can see how thick they are.
Oh, that would have made him
the eyes.
even angrier to do this.
Yeah, as if he wasn't angry enough. But it's got it is a terrific film. I need to watch it again, actually. It's I guess it's kind of like just before they started going downhill with the Hammer kind of like horror movies. This was one of the last. Where they
started trying to really insert more nudity and stuff in. I think I remember.
Yeah. Not that I'm against that, but
I mean, like, it was like it's I think it happened a lot in all of the 70s movies when they were really getting to do that. Because I mean, like, I don't know if you remember Dirty Harry. He crashes through the roof of a porn set. Yes. And there's just a couple naked people standing in the background for no other reason than to give the movie a little bit of nudity. There was no rhyme or reason to it, but it was the 70s, and that was the thing. So they had to get it in there.
Whenever they did that though in a Dirty Harry movie, you always got the kind of like the double take for Clint Eastwood, look at the stain in his face, which was always funny.
Exactly.
I think in a lot of cases in nudity in that was the finance they were getting from abroad. So for different kind of like executive producers and financiers putting money, they kind of said, we need more violence, we need more sex, we need more that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so the nudity, that was kind of, they just put it in. In a lot of cases, you'll see sort of like scenes or stills from these movies are actually in the movies, and they were done for like the Japanese market and for abroad. Yeah. But I'm going to move. We mentioned it earlier.
Yep, it's the Spanish one.
The Spanish one, Jess Franco. Are you a big fan of the work of Jess Franco?
I don't know if I'd know the name more so much as the movies, if I've seen him.
Yeah, he is Jesus or Jesus Franco, and he is or was a very prolific director, low budget horror movies, and essentially anything that was big at the time. So he would make anything that he thought was going to be, successful, whatever the producers were asking for. He made them really quickly and really cheaply and really shoddily for the most part. He's got a huge cult following, and there's a few of his movies that are actually not bad. But he was a filmmaker who just churned them out continually.
Early Grindhouse guy.
Yeah, but occasionally with a very kind of artful kind of look, very kind of like European arty kind of look to them. But you were talking about not being able to stay awake through what was it we were talking about earlier? Been too long or the Nosferatu. Nosferatu.
Clark Kinsey.
Imagine that pace, right? But then slow it down to half the speed.
Right.
Most Jess Franco films are that boring or that dull. And unfortunately, this is one of them. But doesn't Christopher Lee look great with the mustache?
He does, but I imagine he was angry with this one too because he was just trying to get an accurate Dracula through, and this one at the end of the day wasn't all that accurate either.
It wasn't, although he got to say some of the stuff from the book.
Right.
He did go on to make a few more films with Jess Franco, so
so he must have had a decent time.
Or he just get paid well.
Possible too. At this point in horror movies, he was probably getting an A-list star treatment.
Exactly. That's Pete's hit it in the head. He's one of the few directors who can make gratuitous nudity boring.
And you were talking about Freddie and like Robert Englund, like this. I think the same thing kind of happens to him when he's in any other kind of movie. He's like getting C-list pay, but when he's in a horror movie, they are paying him a premium. And I'm guessing Christopher Lee, for a little while at least, had that same kind of a problem.
Yeah. I mean, this one's, when you look at that, you've got Christopher Lee, Klaus Kinski, who was in all the spaghetti westerns and all the kind of crazy stuff with Werner Herzog. Soledad Miranda, who was in a lot of Jess Franco's movies, and Herbert Lom. So these names are very specific to certain markets, and they know they can sell it to certain markets based on these names, which you don't really get that today. But I can just imagine some people going along saying, "Oh, Herbert Lom, we like him. He was in the Pink Panther," and then watching this and then going, "What the hell am I watching?" Because it's not a good film. But
it's hard to find too. I think this is one of the few that's like really out of print.
I've got the old 2-disc DVD that was released, and I have seen it probably 4 or 5 times. When I say it's not a good film, it doesn't mean I'm not going to watch it, every couple of years, because I will watch it. But yeah, it's an interesting one. If you want to see what Christopher Lee would do if he played Dracula as he was in the book, it's worth watching, even if the director's not really helping him.
Not on the same page.
Yeah, he's not.
Or the same page, but different books.
Yeah, not even on the same planet, I've got to say.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, he's got to go with the money. So 1970s, and we're talking about Scars of Dracula. This is where the Hammer movies ignore all the previous Dracula films they've made and just make this one-off, crazy, very shoddy, very cheap, but I think hugely entertaining movie called Scars of Dracula.
Right. It's like almost a mini reboot.
Yeah, totally. It's got probably the worst ever bats on wires of any Dracula movie. That, though, is something of a recommendation in my book.
Well, with high definition, you notice all of that stuff like right in your face.
Totally,
kind of
yeah.
Like the cardboard on the lamp in the Bela Lugosi thing to kind of diffuse the light a little bit.
This is one of these films I saw as a kid, so it's before the internet. So you're not aware that eventually people are going to say that, this is a terrible film, or this is the nadir of the of the franchise or whatever.
Yeah,
you never know at the time. Yeah, I always remembered it being hugely entertaining. Incredibly gory, very kind of like cheesy, and a lot of fun, and it still is.
What was your first Dracula movie?
My first Dracula movie. My first Dracula movie probably was Dracula, 1931 Dracula.
Okay.
Because I've been watching them on. Yeah, from watching them on the late night double bills on the BBC, they showed them in sequence with the Universal films. So the first Dracula movie that I would have seen would have been that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Even before I'd seen Abbott and Costello.
I must have been 8 or 9 years old, and I saw Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. First one. That was my first. So Gary Oldman's my first Dracula.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So mine was Bela. Mine yours is Gary. But yeah, this is have you seen this? Do you know if you've seen this one?
I think I may have seen it like on TV at some point, but I mean, of course it would have had commercials, so they would have cut things out. And so I'd have to say, I mean, and it was so long ago back when, like those late night horror movies. So I would go ahead and just count that as a no, not anymore, because I've seen it. I know I've seen it. I remember pieces because I'd go back and look at some clips and go, yes, I remember this, but I couldn't tell you the first thing that happens in the movie.
Well, I won't spoil it, but there's Doctor Who's in it. There's Patrick.
I bet he gets staked at the end.
He goes up in a he goes out in a blaze of glory in this one. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's actually one of the better endings for him as well.
Oh, good.
Usually he just gets overcome with things and then falls off somewhere and lands on a stake. But this is more fun. Now
here we go.
Talking. There's a lot of chat. I'm going to quickly go over because we are going to be covering some of the stuff you guys are talking about there in the chat.
Oh yeah.
We will get there. Don't worry. And yeah, we're going to get there too. No, there's one that Lucifer's mentioned it. I don't know.
What about
Dracula? Okay. Right, okay, when you ask me about that. Yeah, okay, I watched this again this week. This is Dracula AD 1972. My wife said to me, is this supposed to be funny? And then said, is this a comedy? And then at one point she actually laughed out loud. I love this movie. Indeed, that's probably the main reason. I just think everything that's wrong about this movie makes it so much better in my book. This was Hammer deciding to update Dracula to the 1970s and getting it for the most part wrong, but making a glorious movie that you watch it today and you kind of go, what the critics missed in the 70s, you can see today is what actually kind of makes it work. Johnny Alucard makes an appearance. He's the young Dracula acolyte. The lovely Miss Caroline Munro, as his first victim, makes an appearance in this, and she's terrific in a small role. Christopher Lee gets to play a descendant of Van Helsing. There's a pre-credit sequence with the original Van Helsing and Dracula fighting in a coach.
I think this was the movie that got him out of the house.
It could very well be, yeah.
He was very gaunt in this movie, very thin.
Yeah, this is the start of when you see he's kind of like, he's almost got that kind of very world weary quality to his face. For all the stuff in the 70s really is kind of like that.
Yeah,
and indeed Stephanie Beacham. I just think this film. Also, I'm reading Tomb of Dracula, the comic book at the time, and it's set in modern days. So
this would have been like a translation right to screen from something like that, drawn by Gene Colan or Tony DeZuniga or something.
Yeah, to me, that's what it was. It wasn't as good, but in my kind of young brain, I was filling in the blanks with those artists working on it. And so I this is one of these movies where you can't defend it as a great piece of art. You can't defend it as a great Dracula film, but my God, it's a lot of fun. It's got the most inappropriate wagga wagga 1970s funky music as well. It kicks in every time Dracula starts chasing Van Helsing. I think my wife said, is that meant to sound like Benny Hill? And it kind of very funky Benny Hill music. But yeah, I love this film. Any thoughts?
Okay. I feel like this movie is like, it's like a clay pot on a potter's wheel, and it's just wobbling all over and going crazy, and the director's just kind of holding on, yelling, "I can save it!" Yeah. But it's fun in the right frame of mind.
You've got to be in the right frame of mind. It does have, he gets to say a line from the book. Completely out of context. Completely out of context. Just kind of like he starts spewing some lines from the original novel when he's talking to Van Helsing before he starts chasing him up some stairs.
Still trying to hold on to it. God bless him.
Even then he's trying to find some dignity in what he's doing. But no, it's equal parts ridiculous, bad, and brilliant. Yeah, I love this movie. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, if anybody hates it, you're wrong. It actually had the direct sequel. Same director, Alan Gibson. Interesting director. Died quite young.
Interesting poster.
Indeed. But Alan Gibson made both these movies. He also made a BBC play called The Flip Side of Dominic Hyde, which was hugely successful when I was growing up. For these alone, he should have some kind of like place in geek sort of like history, some kind of like award for these two movies and for that TV show.
Curiously, this one's in public domain for some reason.
Yeah, that's an odd one. I'm not sure though about the first version of this that I bought on DVD was a Spanish pirate version of it, using a kind of public domain copy. But recently I bought the Warner Archives version, and then I bought it again we've got a version Warner released over here in the HMV Premium Collection, which has got some nice postcards in it and a nice kind of like slipcase. So of course I had to buy it again. So it's an interesting one. It's in the public domain, but people need to be very careful as to what print they use, because I don't know whether the storyline is in public domain or it's just certain prints because they didn't have the copyright on them. I think it might be one of those kind of cases.
Well, I think Hammer had like multiple. They had multiple distributors for the U.S. over their run. I think some of it went to Paramount, some of it was Warner, some of it. This one, I'm not sure where this one fell in order to get like that public domain status, but
it was Warner that had it, because they're the ones now that have it out in Blu-ray. But I don't know. I think everybody was just fed up and didn't have any kind of respect for what was coming out from Hammer at the time. You know,
I think Frankenstein was even worse. They had way more distributors. You'll never find a proper Frankenstein box set from Hammer, not at least stateside here. I don't know about over there.
No, definitely not. Even the Dracula movies, although most of them were released through Warner, there's different distributors for one or two of them.
Okay, yeah.
So
again, that Spanish Dracula was off on its own too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but again, this is another one that I love. Not quite as much as AD 1972, because it's not quite as funky. But it doesn't have Caroline Munro in it, but it does have Stephanie Beacham gets replaced by Joanna Lumley. A nice connection to the New Avengers, which is good, or Sapphire and Steel. These are all kind of like UK shows that kind of like you were watching at the same time as a kid. So you're connecting these actors to genre stuff. So they were genre actors in your head. This has some good stuff in it, but it's like Dracula the action movie. Yeah, but yeah.
I think they're trying to walk back some of the things they felt didn't work from 1972.
Yeah, it's a bit more serious, a bit more kind of like a bit less funky, a bit less Benny Hill.
And with that poster.
Indeed. Well, that's a spoiler, because that's how he dies.
Right.
They keep coming up with new ways of killing vampires in the Hammer Draculas, and getting caught in a hawthorn bush seemingly is not a particularly nice thing to happen to you if you're Dracula. Yeah, cool. I just always have thought to myself, well, imagine if Gene Colan drew Dracula trapped in a hawthorn bush. That would be cool.
I know. That would have been amazing. Well, that's the Hammer ones, isn't it? That's the last one.
Yeah, that was it. It was 1973 was when this was eventually released, but the whole world was changing because we had The Exorcist, and people weren't interested in Hammer movies anymore.
Demon movies were taking over. Demon ghost movies.
There was another one.
Was that Seven Golden Vampires?
Yes,
it was. But Christopher Lee wasn't in this. I mean, Christopher Lee wasn't in this one, no. He
wasn't. But as you can see, the Dracula that was in it had an awful lot of foundation on, and a wee bit of lipstick. But it has to be included because it is Dracula. It starts with
blue
Dracula.
Light probably doesn't help.
It doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. But again, this is a movie that's a guilty pleasure if you believe in guilty pleasures. I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I just think it's a masterpiece.
You like it or you don't.
You either like it or you don't, and I love it. Another good film. But we won't spend much time talking about this because, as you know, Dracula appears at the very beginning and the very end, and that's it, really. And it's not Christopher Lee. If only they get Christopher Lee, this would have been brilliant.
Oh my gosh! I imagine they asked him, and he kicked him out of whatever building they were.
Yeah, I mean, he could have got a wee free holiday to Hong Kong, though. You would have looked at it that way.
I think after what he'd been through, there's no destination on this planet that would have been worth it.
No, he was probably like, no, I've made like half a dozen Fu Manchu movies. I'm out. I'm not going to Hong Kong. I'm sure everybody's seen this.
What is this?
Really? You've never seen Son of Dracula? No, neither have.
Ringo Starr again, of course.
Yeah, I know. I said he'd be back. There's no escaping him. Yeah, he had this idea. He was talking to Harry Nilsson, and he said to Harry Nilsson, he says, "Wouldn't it be a great idea to make a Dracula movie musical?" So there is actually a Harry Nilsson album out there of the soundtrack for Son of Dracula. And if you want to do a wee Google search, you can find the movie because it's in the public domain, I believe. Or it's just a case that nobody cares. And you can watch the movie. Son of Dracula with Harry Nilsson and Ringo Starr.
Goodness.
I know.
Is he supposed to be like Merlin? Or?
Yes, I believe he is actually Merlin in it. From what I remember. It's been many, many years since I saw it. But yes. I like to, spread this joy to the world that there is actually a movie there with Harry Nilsson and Ringo Starr, Son of Dracula. Check it out, kids, and buy the soundtrack and sing the songs. I'm sure you will thoroughly enjoy it.
I'm sure it's aged wonderfully.
Oh, don't make me laugh.
Oh, here we go. Dean Cohen's Dracula himself.
There he is.
That's an interesting poster. I remember this movie. I remember for being like the clothes looked a little too modern, and the day for night shooting was really distracting.
Yeah, because it never looked at all at night.
They just tossed a blue filter on daytime and said it's nighttime.
Yeah, it's a fun wee movie though.
He gives it his all.
Yeah, this is Jack Palance as I think one of the best Draculas.
In a mediocre. I mean, the movie wasn't super high budget. I think it was a TV movie, wasn't it?
TV movie. So it's TV movie of the week. So
TV budget.
Keep movie. That in mind, and then it's kind of like, yeah, this is like it's worth watching.
Mm-hmm. I think the DVD's still kind of around.
See, this exactly, Pete. It's people are watching this podcast. It's the only way they'll ever find out about Harry Nilsson in a Dracula movie. But yeah, I've got the Blu-ray of this. I watched it last year. I think it was like a year ago.
Oh, yeah.
And enjoyed it. But it's a TV movie.
Yeah, you got to give some allowances.
But it's one major claim to fame is that he was the model for Gene Colan's Dracula, Tomb of Dracula.
Oh yeah,
and you can really see that. But to this day, the best ever rendition of Dracula in print, I believe.
Oh yeah, wonderful job there. Yeah, I think I got the first. I used to have the entire collection, but I gave it to somebody who was a bit bigger Dracula fan than I was. I still had a double copy of the first, Tomb of Dracula, but then I got like a lot of other adaptations, comics. I got like the Dynamite one. I got the Mike Mignola one for the '92 movie, and the Marvels one. They did a Marvel Classics Illustrated.
Right.
I got a Classics Illustrated one.
I sold because there was a Marvel Classics Illustrated. I think one of the first ones was Dracula, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But I had all the Tomb of Draculas, but I sold them to get credit in a comic shop to buy new comics, like in the mid '80s.
Well, they got kind of ridiculous. I mean, later on, like the Silver Surfer comes into play, and
yeah. But I kind of wish I hadn't done that, Nick. Because I'll get to some point where I will probably buy them all back again.
I feel like you would have wanted to keep Volume 4 over the rest of them. That was the ones based on the magazine.
Dracula Lives. That was the weekly comic in the UK, which reprinted all the Tomb of Dracula stories, but in black and white, which was better because they look even better in black and white. Oh yeah,
I had them on the what do you call them? The showcase, not the showcase prevents essential. So they were black and white newsprint, anyways. I love the line. It looked better than the color.
Not quite sure what ones Peeps is talking about here.
He did the other vampire film too, didn't he? Landis film. Landis did.
That's Innocent Blood. Right.
Yeah.
Are we talking about Ringo Starr again?
What? Landis did a vampire movie? Do I know that?
Biners. Yeah, Innocent. Was it Innocent Blood? That was kind of like.
Well, now I'm all confused.
Yes, Innocent Blood. That's it. Yep, it was.
Poster for it.
It was kind of like his vampire version of his American Werewolf, But of course, nowhere near as good as American Werewolf.
Probably why I haven't seen it.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm hearing about it.
Tomb of Dracula. I read that as Dracula Lives, same as Pete here in the UK. Every week you'd get the news agents, you get your issue of Dracula Lives.
Oh, I remember this movie. Okay. I didn't know what it was called. I remember that poster. All right.
Yep.
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles?
Don Rickles was the vampire, a vampire. Yeah,
Don Rickles was
Terry. Wow, this had a cast to it. I'll have to track this one down again and watch it.
Yeah, it's been a while since
Angela Bassett, Louis Guzman, Don Rickles. Yeah,
that's it. That's it. That was the last in the poster. Yep.
1992. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I knew that poster. Okay, I haven't seen this one.
It was Don Rickles I was thinking. See, that's who doesn't think of Don Rickles every now and then. I was thinking of Don Rickles just the other day because he was in Jack Kirby's put him in his Jimmy Olsen comics, and I remember he cast him in a couple of them. First, I was just thinking of that again someday. Yeah, anyway, yes, Dracula.
That's one of the major ones I haven't seen.
This one?
Yeah.
The sexy Dracula.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I saw the trailer and stuff, it was one of the things that once we get to the Coppola one, that when they shoved all the romance and stuff in there, and I was like, this looks like more of that.
It's not bad. It is more of that, but it's not bad.
I like Frank Langella.
Yeah, he's pretty good as a kind of like a sexy Dracula. It's based on the stage version that he did, and it's got a good cast. And Donald Pleasance is there. It's got Laurence Olivier. It's got weird 1970s psychedelic effects. That you can see them there. Right. They're floating with these kind of psychedelic effects going on in the background. Avoid it on DVD right now. You be careful any version if anybody does want to get it, because John Badham decided to go in and tamper with the look of the film and make it look all kind of like steely and blue and modern. He attacked it with the old Avid editor and color corrected it.
Got to note those color crayons, huh?
Yeah, so he kind of it doesn't. He's essentially he's taken away the nice kind of like late 70s sheen that it had. So I think you can still get the original version on some Blu-rays, but if you haven't seen this and you're thinking of getting it, chances are you're going to get like a Lucas version. Yeah, but it's a shame that. It's a good wee film. I think it's quite interesting. I quite like it.
Is it pretty brisk, or is it kind of move along at a slower pace?
Oh, there you go. Pete's ahead of me here. He knows it's coming out in the UK with the full colour print at last. Ooh. Lovely.
Love a restored
version. Pre-order that. So People was his Dracula, his sexy Dracula.
So this is his Dracula, as far as that's the first one you see is usually your Dracula, like James Bond.
Yep, that's it. You're stuck with Frank Langella. Now you could have been stuck with.
No.
I had to include it because look, it was released in the UK as a double bill with American Werewolf in London.
Oh goodness, that looks god awful.
Have you never seen this?
I haven't seen it. I didn't know. I didn't know it existed. I didn't know George Hamilton played Dracula.
He did. He played it well. He's actually pretty funny. This is an incredibly offensive movie for so many reasons.
Well, he did this. He did The Gay Blade too. So I feel like he was collecting these movies.
Yep. This is a hugely offensive movie for many, many reasons. He's Langella.
So that's got to be your favorite one.
Yeah, well, it should be my favorite then. That's the case. But yeah, I had to throw this one in there because I remember seeing it as a kid and thinking it was incredibly funny, and then you see it later on in life and you go, "Wow!"
How did they get made?
Yeah, but it's of its time, and it's.
Yeah, it didn't.
This was okay. Exactly, it was okay at the time. It was a huge hit.
People had sense of humor.
A huge hit, but I'm not even going to talk about some of the stuff. It's stunningly offensive.
Yeah,
for lots of reasons. But if you haven't seen it, might as well track it down. Watch it as a double bill with Son of Dracula with Ringo Starr.
Oh, here we go.
Right. The stage is yours, Statto.
This one's for me. This one suffered from. I think it was just unusually long. I mean, not unusually, but I mean, like they spent so much time just staring at one spot, where they could have just cut those little pieces out and made a much faster. Because the original one was so fast, it was just like click, 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 click. This one, what would you call it? Ponderous? That'd be the word you'd use for it, because everybody was sitting around thinking. He was longing. They were longing for stuff. It was.
it's kind of like with the chat still talking about our previous photo, not ages well. I know it's sorry. I think it's probably still quite funny, but the comedy is not aged particularly well in our modern PC culture.
So track it down and watch it twice.
So track it down and watch it. This is. I know what you mean. I like the fact that every shot in this seems to last about a minute and a half longer than it should last, and the sound in it is just odd. Yeah, it's just this where there is sound or things happen. Everything about this film is just slightly off, but everything is off to begin with, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of like everything's weird and then it's slightly off. And yeah, I like it a lot. I think there's things wrong with it, and I can understand why with the pacing it doesn't get you. I think it has to be approached as, you have to be a bit highbrow and just approach it as an art movie version.
Well, I feel like this one I can compare this with although I did like the Peter Jackson King Kong, all right. It's kind of the same thing where there's an ego kind of in it, and you want to make this movie you're such a fan of, and you want to make it like the definitive version, and you end up like putting way too much of yourself in it or your fandom in it, and it's like comes off as like self-important and self-aware.
Yeah,
that's sort of what I got when I watched this movie. I like the poster a lot. Some wonderful art. But
that's an amazing poster. I think it's probably one of my favorite posters of all time. I really like that poster. And
to the credit of the movie, the first part, just I think that's one thing in common with a lot of Dracula movies for me. My favorite part of the whole story is the opening with Dracula talking to Jonathan, or whoever else it might be in the castle, and that person realizing they're a prisoner. That whole dynamic of like, what am I going to do? This guy's holding me hostage, but I can't let him know that I know some terrible stuff is happening, and this is really horrific for me because I'm in the middle of nowhere. I can't leave. That's my favorite part of any Dracula adaptation. And this one wasn't different. It still was pretty tense, albeit a little bit slower burn than some of the other ones, because it took a while for them to get to that kind of horrific sort of part. But yeah, I feel like just this one took a little longer to get to the point than I would have liked.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand. I think you kind of have to find that you go with it, and if you can't go with it, then it's not going to be for you. And it's one of these films where I saw it in the GFT, the Glasgow Film Theatre. It was like a really nice kind of like cinema, and I just kind of like was relaxed and enjoyed watching it. So it doesn't work as well on TV. I think seeing it in the cinema makes a big difference.
Just stop and smell the roses kind of vampire movie.
Yeah.
You just mentioned the Willem Dafoe one in there. That's Shadow of the Vampire. And funny story about that. They actually had to have a 15-minute credit sequence so that it could make the minimum time requirement for an Oscar movie. It was a short movie, and they needed to add like 12 to 15 minutes on, so it had this really long plotting credit sequence so that they could actually qualify to get possibly get an Oscar.
Right. Oh, it's shocking. Of course, back then they wouldn't even thought, do what you do today and put the credits at the end.
I imagine it was about as long as the original Nosferatu, just kind of going through the making of it with John Malkovich playing Murnau.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen that.
Really?
I don't know why I've never seen it. Yep.
That's an interesting one.
I need to correct my blip in my Nosferatu knowledge and give that a watch.
Yeah, it's kind of going on the premise that it was a real vampire the entire time, not an actor. Sort of thing. Alternate history. There it is.
It is. Yep.
I like 2/3 of this movie.
The first 2/3.
Yeah, I didn't like the the romantic thing. I didn't like that at all. I wish they would have just kept him the really menacing, evil character, and this would have been about, and added a couple of things, and this would have been about pitch perfect. It's the second most accurate after that 1970s BBC mini, or TV movie, I think.
Yeah.
Goldman, or as drugged out as stuff as he was at the time, he gave it his all and he did a great job. But they just had to try to make him sympathetic, which he doesn't need it. Dracula does not need it.
No.
He's interesting in his own right. But this had the best makeup. I think that's the problem. Like, had this been made any other time, I don't think it would have been as strong, because the creature makeup in here is amazing. I keep meaning to go back and watch this. It's a tough one to get through. I think there are parts that drag.
I remember I saw it in the cinema.
Mm-hmm.
It looked amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We had Keanu Reeves. Doesn't bother me at all. Didn't mind his Harker.
You didn't mind his accent?
No, it didn't bother me at all. But yeah.
Well, what did you think of Oldman as far as Dracula's concerned?
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
he was trying too hard.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was trying too hard.
A little bit.
I'll tell you my problem with him. My problem with it was that I think Coppola wanted to make a movie that was better than the source material, better than being a horror movie.
Oh,
right?
I can agree with that.
But at the same time, he wanted to do things that he thought were kind of cheesy and of the genre. And I don't think he found a happy medium of making them work. So, and I, you know me, I like films that are disjointed and have lots of different genres in them, but for whatever reason, the film just never gelled with me. So I could appreciate it, but I have watched it once since I saw it in the cinema many years ago, and I've yet to return to it.
This is the tough thing for me, because this is the first Dracula I saw, so there's that slight nostalgic twinge to it. But and I don't know how many people this is going to offend, but I think Francis Ford Coppola is one of the most overrated directors, at least that I've seen. I was never a big fan of Godfather.
No, I don't know. He's made a lot that I like. But at the same time, he's made I think the films that people think are great, I often kind of go, don't know. I'd rather watch The Outsiders or Rumblefish than watch this.
Sure. I think it's a little long for a movie. For this kind of movie, it does in a similar kind of sense focus on things a little bit too much like the Nosferatu from the 70s, where it's like, standing on things a little bit too long.
I think it's a 4K release of Nosferatu that Pete's bought. I might be wrong. It could be this. I don't know. But I just had to bring that up because I didn't realize 10 to Midnight was out in Blu-ray. I'm going to have to get a copy of that. But yeah, I should have. I don't know. Should I watch this again? I don't know. It's like.
Well, it has aged pretty well given its period piece kind of thing. Okay. I will say, regardless of the look of the movies has aged magnificently, because they didn't set it in any specific time that we can see, like with cars and clothing, and that really helps a lot. But it's one of those things where it's one you could pull out every 5 to 10 years and get a decent watch out of it and then forget about it, I think, if I'm being fair.
I didn't like the werewolf scene.
Yeah. I like the bat scene.
Yeah.
That looked great.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to have to give this a give this another spin. Give it a watch. I'll get back to you after Halloween and let you know how I get on with it. But yeah, I'm very conflicted about this.
I'd give it like a 6 out of 10 myself.
But you have to see it.
7 out of 10 maybe.
Yeah, because if you don't see this movie or next movie, it will make no sense whatsoever.
Oh, absolutely. Hey. This is the last, I think second to last movie Mel Brooks really did. And it was the last one that got any attention because his last one was like a whimper. He went out on a whimper with his last movie. But this...
I don't even know what the last one was. He did Men in Tights. That was before this, wasn't it?
That was before this.
Yeah.
Just a year or two. It was...
He got a bad rap for the critics for this because you can't compare this to Young Frankenstein, and everybody did because he was just going back to do horror comedy again.
Sure.
Young Frankenstein is just a unique movie of its time, and you can't really compare that to... I
think this is the last one that maybe went to theaters because this was 95. Yeah. Robin Hood Men in Tights was 2 years prior. Right. I want to say he did something else. He just failed. And he went to stage after this. He went to doing stage stuff. And then little voice acting and stuff. But this was the last one I think that he did, like, the big, making fun of big budget movies, trying to kind of couple it with Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, I think Spaceballs set the template for these, because they were less artistic than Young Frankenstein, just more in your face. It's got Leslie Nielsen, who unfortunately is trying to be funny. He's always better in these
Naked
films.
Gun stuff.
Yeah, the first couple of Naked Guns, he's just playing it straight. In the airplane, he plays it straight, and he's funnier when he does that.
Oh, absolutely.
Here,
Light Stinks, I think was that movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Light Stinks, right?
Just went out on a fizzle. But this one, you're right. This one leaned heavily on the Coppola one, just like Young Frankenstein leaned on Son of Frankenstein really hard. You're going to find that a lot funnier if you watch Son of Frankenstein.
Indeed, yeah. But the thing about this one is that the Coppola one was already ridiculous.
Yeah.
Actually, now I think about it, you say that, so was Son of Frankenstein when you watch that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this, I don't think this is quite as funny as
no.
As this.
Well, his humor was already kind of becoming a little bit outdated, which was the trouble with. I mean, a lot of people from the 90s, kind of like their careers hit a hard wall as soon as, like Mike Myers. Where is he now? He had a bad movie and disappeared. He's doing small little things. Adam Sandler, his movies never quite hit that kind of those stars. Then that humor just kind of went away and changed. Hey, this is the second Dracula I think I saw.
This is again, this is a movie that I quite like because it does seem to steal some of the feel of Tomb of Dracula again.
Very inventive. I mean, they changed everything.
They changed everything. It does also have a Scottish actor of some note.
First movie I saw him in. Yeah, I think. Well, this.
Cheers, Lucifer.
Hey, see you later, man. This one doesn't age extremely well. You see this when you go, that's an early 2000s movie.
I don't know. It's Wes Craven Presents.
Nothing to do with that.
Come on, it has. Am I remembering this right? They break in to a vault, and these young kids, they steal Dracula's coffin.
Yep.
Which is, they don't know it's Dracula's coffin. They just think it must have something worth a lot of money in it because it's in a vault, and that's how they release Dracula back into the world again. And Dracula.
This is a comic book movie.
Yeah, it turns out that Dracula. Do you want to give the spoiler away as to who Dracula actually is?
Yeah, let's do it. Spoiler alert, everybody.
Yeah, so I'll give you the floor, Statto, if you.
Okay. So I think they were trying to like George Lucas this whole thing where they were trying to go back and fill in all the details about why Dracula ticks. So with the silver and the sunlight and stuff, him being Judas Iscariot, hanging himself for those pieces of silver and stuff like that. And that's why he gets so angry when he sees the cross, because he betrayed his pal, and silver is a problem because he took that money. And but this one unintentionally turned this was the loose start of a trilogy that turned Dracula into Doctor Who.
Oh, right. I never watched the other two. They were called direct to videos, weren't they?
Because what they did in the other two, Dracula 2, I can't remember what that one was, and then the third one was like Ascension or something. Rutger Hauer played Dracula in the third movie. They turned it into like a weird Castlevania because they had the guy that played Bruce Lee in a Dragon Story, and then he was in the second Time Cop movie. He was like a whip killing vampire killer. He used a whip and vampire killer kind of thing. But they had it where every time Dracula died, he came back looking like somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, like the second one, they had him. It was basically like he was caught in a warehouse, and he was tied up. And he was really weak, and these college students were gonna kind of use him for something or other. But they used all these crazy old vampire tropes, like he can't move without counting everything, and he's got to untie knots and stuff like that. But there's just this great point where they throw these marbles all up into the air, and he just counts them all instantly because he's so good at what he does. He just throws them up. He's like 4,235. You're not going to stop me with that. I'm
going to have to watch these now.
I think you should give those. I mean, if anything, just for curiosity. But
yeah, I just assumed it would be quite awful. But
the
no, I'm going to have to.
They're not great, but they're far from the worst Dracula movies you've ever seen.
Right. They do unfortunately not have Gerard Butler in them.
No,
I'm guessing
he was smart enough to dodge that bullet.
The subtlety of his acting in this movie is like,
but yeah,
I don't know.
You get Rutger Hauer.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Who is also a vampire in the Buffy movie.
Indeed. And we're going to get to him again as well. He's going to be. Does he play Dracula in the Buffy movie?
He does, I believe.
Gosh, I should have put that in here, shouldn't I?
That's okay.
Dear. As if we don't have enough.
That's true.
Here's one I've not seen.
Yeah, this one. I think this is probably closer to Castlevania than it is Dracula, because they had a game a few years before this called Lords of Shadow, and it was all about a guy pretty much selling his soul it was either to save his love or help his family or whatever, and he turned into Dracula. He was the first Belmont, who was a family of vampire killers, which explained why the Belmonts are the ones that were tasked to kill Dracula every time, because he was the first one. Spoiler alert. But this kind of did that same thing where he's like your Vlad the Impaler, like the historical figure, and the Turks they're gonna march and they're gonna take everybody out. So he went and he made a deal with this vampire that can't leave this cave. And the vampire just pretty much gave him this like, you got to make it 3 days without drinking blood and you'll turn back into a regular guy. 3 days. So he's like, I can take that bet. So he takes it and gets harder and harder and harder every day. But he gets all these crazy powers, like one-man army taking on the entirety of the Turk army by himself to save his family and his city or his country. So they turned him into like a hero, an anti-hero. Lots of sacrifice, lots of helping, like saving people.
Right.
It undermined a lot of what Dracula was.
Yeah, it's not Dracula, but
no.
But it sounds fairly interesting, so maybe I'll.
But it's a good for a one-off. I mean, they were going to use this as the start of the Dark Universe. It didn't do well at all, so they said, okay. They tacked an ending on. They said, okay, we're not going to use this one. We're going to use the Wolfman, and that one didn't do well. So then they said, we're going to use the Mummy, and that one didn't do well. So now I think the Invisible Man, this new one from Blumhouse, is their new unofficial start to the new monster universe. Which that one actually succeeded. So,
Right? Yeah. I quite like this guy. I like this actor. He was a favorite.
Been in a lot of stuff.
In the remake of the Beauty and the Beast, he did a good job in that. Yep. I liked him in that.
Yeah,
Hi, Michael.
Another one of those movies that I have this one too. I think I've got like at least 8 or 9 adaptations of Dracula in movies. And this.
Oh dear.
But this one was one of those ones where it's almost you forget it as soon as you're done watching it. In all honesty, and I think that's why it didn't get a sequel, because people weren't offended by it. They just kind of came out and went, "Oh yeah, what happened?"
Yeah. Yeah, didn't quite stick.
Hey,
Now you're not going to forget these guys.
here's a grab bag.
Yeah, I just threw some of these in because, of course, if I did this completely chronologically, we would have talked about these guys a while ago. Technically, Count Yorga's not Dracula, but very much a Dracula type character.
Sure.
Blackula, technically, he's not Dracula either. But,
well, he got attacked by Dracula.
He got attacked by Dracula, so yeah, that's indeed. So that counts, and Dracula was in it. And Zoltan was indeed the Hound of Dracula. So there you go.
Robert Query is Count Yorga. I think this was responsible for Vincent Price being furious with AIP.
Yeah,
because they were trying to usurp his power there.
Indeed, to create a new horror star in Robert Query.
Well, Robert Query was not a horror star.
No, although the Count Yorga films are quite good fun. And Blackula, I haven't seen that in years. I do believe Blackula's Scream is better, the sequel.
Well, that's the funny thing with William Marshall. He was such a good actor. I think they forgot to tell him that this was a cheap B movie because he acted the heck out of that role.
Yeah, he plays it straight. And when you look at the makeup, they've stuck. I don't know what they were thinking.
Oh, he did a great job in this role. I mean, it's every even if the movie's hasn't aged great, his role, his acting is every bit as good as any on-screen Dracula.
Yeah. The movies are worth getting, though.
But then they tried Blackenstein, and that didn't work out as well.
Yeah, it didn't work at all, did it? Yeah. I would say that was a step too far even for exploitation.
If they would have gotten somebody good to play, like, the Doctor or something like that, or even the Monster, that might have worked out. But this just rested solely on Marshall.
Yeah, but these are the kind of oddities you don't get anymore. The kind of movies, you just don't get them.
They're so expensive.
Yeah, so it's like they're just kind of like there's a certain kind of craftsmanship to these movies that they look kind of cheap and shoddy in some respects. But,
well, I suppose I shouldn't say that. The stuff Blumhouse puts out, it's often. I think they've set themselves up to be this generation's Hammer. With
I think so.
Insidious and the Conjuring stuff and the little universe they cleverly built out of that, and then moving out into like stuff like. That one movie with the jazz teacher. Got J. Jonah Jameson playing the jazz teacher. They had a hand in that one.
So I don't know why I was thinking jazz dancing there. The one with the drumming.
But I mean, they've done some dramatic stuff. They've done a lot of horror, and this horror is it's very effective and it's cheap too. Blast it, they're doing it right, making movies that maybe cost $10 to $15 million or something, and they're bringing in $100 million in the theater. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I suppose you're right. Yeah, Blumhouse. Yeah,
of course, not every movie's great, but I mean, they're doing it right by lower cost, lower risk.
Yep, because that's the way you should be making horror movies, kids.
Absolutely.
Or
Whiplash. Thank you, people. That's the one.
That's it.
That was a 10th movie in and of itself. Holy cow.
Yeah, Whiplash. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you, Sue? I haven't. You know what? I don't think I've seen the sequel to Count Yorga. I saw the first one.
I've seen both of them, I think. The first one's the one with the lassie eating the kitten, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
What's not to love?
Oh, Argento's Dracula 3D, and there's some Rutger Hauer there too.
There's Rutger Hauer, and one of the many great posters that were created for this movie.
This is a weird one.
Have you seen it?
I saw some of it, and then it was like, wait a minute, is that his daughter? He's directing doing dirty scenes.
Well, Italians. What can I say?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I think I remember watching this. It was a weird one.
Yeah, I needless to say, I bought the 3D Blu-ray as soon as it was available. It's Argento, so I had to watch it.
Sure.
And it's Dracula, so again, I had to watch it.
Italian John Carpenter, that's what he is.
Yeah, it's awful. It's a terrible movie, but
yeah.
I think I started watching it immediately again after I watched it the first time.
There was a lot of nudity in this movie.
It is not just nudity, but 3D nudity.
I had a
perfectly filmed 3D as well. Yeah, the praying mantis is actually only works in 3D.
Oh my god!
It's so bad, but it's so funny in 3D.
It's a misstep.
Yeah, it's a complete misstep. I don't know what he was thinking, but I'm quite glad that it exists. Because
he's another one that kind of lost his credibility almost like later on as time went and things changed.
Yeah,
Wes Craven, John Carpenter, they all they were masters in like 70s and 80s, and then things moved on without him.
Yeah, I think as well it's people that they worked with and the writers and everybody and that kind of whole zeitgeist, and that's not there for them now. So John Carpenter just doesn't bother. He sticks to his music and does what he wants, plays his video games and goes on concert tours.
Smokes a lot of weed.
Yep. Even there, it's just like name above the title, give me the money sort of deal. Argento's still trying to make movies and do stuff, but he's of a different time. So I think even just getting the finance together to make these kind of movies must be tough.
Even Ridley Scott suffers from that to some extent too. I mean, with as celebrated he is in the expensive movies, he's having a hard time of it lately.
It's just, that's a bit harsh, Pete.
Lost it in the 80s.
Yeah.
I haven't seen too many of Argento's movies though, but admittedly, this one was one that I
Sleepless was the last one I saw that was really a good one.
It's like Two Evil Eyes, Suspiria. I know there's one or two others, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a few in there. There's a few in there that people forget about. Opera. Yep, Opera is one. Yeah, but he's kind of like his best work is behind him.
Yeah.
But I'd still rather watch a Argento movie than just about any other horror director right now, because you know you're going to get at least 3 or 4 moments in there that are kind of going to make you go, I remember when he was great. You know,
they're almost like time capsules now. They're not so much scary as it's like, yeah, this is how I like it. This is how I remember, you know, like some of these older directors. Yeah,
but the problem with this film is I have pretty much no recollection of Dracula whatsoever, but the 3D sex and the giant praying mantis are things that you cannot get out of your head once you've seen them.
Well, I mean, I did purge this movie from my head until you brought it up, so hey, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I watched it twice in 1 minute.
Like, did I see this movie? Oh yeah, I was like looking away. I'm innocent, blasted! I'm innocent.
Yeah, Pete's really good at in for Jess Franco. Yep, I agree. Oh. And I own a couple of Jess Franco box sets. So that's a bad arm for research matters. But yeah, that's the last title that I put on, because that was the last big Dracula title I could think of.
Well, we didn't talk about the BBC one, or
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I thought about that today. That's the Gattis and what's his name? Doctor Who guy. Yeah, Scottish guy. Help me out, guys. I'm losing my mind.
That first episode had some promise.
I quite liked the first episode. I thought the first episode was good. The idea of Van Helsing as a nun, I quite liked that.
They changed a few things, sure. And then the second one comes around, and I was thinking, hey, they're going to have like that part on the Demeter that nobody ever shows. That's pretty cool.
Moffat. Yeah.
And then it went off the rails.
But it does, even that one though is kind of like an Agatha Christie type feel about it, which I quite liked.
I didn't have a terrible problem with Clay's Bang as Dracula.
No, I thought he was quite good. He was different.
Did all right, no problem. But it was just that third episode.
That
when they deviated, I I couldn't do it.
Here's the thing about that third episode as well. It should have really appealed to me because Dracula AD 1972 is one of my favourite movies.
Right.
And so that third episode should have really hit home with me. It didn't. It failed completely. It was nothing about that third episode worked
I had to
for
take
me.
a few months. I started it and then I stopped it about 20 minutes in, and I had to take a few months before I could even finish it.
Yeah. I mean, episode 1 I thought was really pretty good. Episode 2 I liked as well. The third one, I was almost like, what are you thinking of when I was watching it?
With the graveyard that's all lit in pink and blue.
Yeah, well, I think they were doing things. I think they were trying to harken back to a lot of the Hammer movies with things that they were doing. But the overall, I mean, the lassie that was playing, was it Lucy, was terrible. The actresses, like, there was no connection with the audience with these characters at all. The only character you had any connection with in that episode was Dracula, because you'd followed him through the first two.
Well, I kind of thought like they were going to do it like, they did the adaptation for Christmas Carol last year, year before with the guy from Iron Man 3 and LA Confidential and stuff, Guy Pearce as Scrooge. And I wasn't amazed with the ending. They changed the ending up a little bit, but I mean, like, I thought it was going to be for the most part a faithful adaptation with a couple of changes, but they changed quite a bit, and then that third season is just like they stopped trying and went off in another direction.
Yeah.
It wasn't even an adaptation at that point.
Yeah, and this is weird. This was like it's kind of like the Sherlock TV show that they did together, Moffat and Gatiss did together, where it starts off great, and then it gets kind of like it's okay, kind of loses its way a bit, and then they do the last few episodes, the last season, and it's kind of like it's all right, but it's not quite the thing that it was before. They managed to do. Yeah, they managed to do that in 3 episodes of one show with this Dracula. They start off strong, then it's not quite as good as it was in the second episode, and then they completely lose their way with the third episode.
That's just efficiency.
Yeah, that's it. It's like, why wait for years to do this? You can just, as you say, do it in one.
The Demeter thing was interesting just because, I mean, I think, I always thought it was just the crew, but, they had all those people that like people that were just going on this dingy ship.
Yep.
Like rich people and stuff. I didn't really buy that too much. I wish it would have stayed with the crew. It almost turned into like Alien, but
yeah, I get what you're saying with that. But yeah, but I just kind of thought, okay, they're doing like we kind of like a Agatha Christie type, all these odd people together sort of thing. But yeah, I did quite like the chap though. What's his name that played Dracula? I thought he did a pretty good.
Yeah, they did a good job of making him like, I really don't care what happens to any of you guys.
Yeah, because he had that he had a playful quality about him, and but at the same time, he really was the son of the dragon. He was evil.
I'll tell you the thing that made me the most angry about it was the downloading powers that he had, where he'd suck an accountant out and he'd be able to do accounting instead of actually just being old enough to study that whole time and just learn the stuff of his own accord because he's an intelligent person. They have to cheat and give him like superpowers where he can like download a juggler and he can juggle now and stuff like that. I really didn't like that. Yeah,
no, I wasn't happy with that at all. But it's kind of like as Pete says, he loved the first 2 episodes. I'm quite happy it exists, and I'll probably watch it in a few years' time and maybe have different thoughts about the 3rd episode because.
The waxwork vampire.
What was that?
He's taking me back.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's the what's it? Yeah, that was the
waxwork. That was the one where all the wax museum things were coming to life and they had to go into different like worlds.
That's right. The sequel was a cowboy film, wasn't it, or something? Yeah.
The sequel was silly. It was.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, but. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. So that was the last Dracula we had. So it's a bit sad, really.
Oh, there'll be more.
Yeah,
of course there'll be more.
Yep. I
kind of feel like we're due for a big screen one pretty soon.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be traditional. No, it wouldn't be traditional. So I think we know that my favourites. So if we're to pick our favourites, I mean, my favourites are the Christopher Lee Draculas. And I think the 1958 one and Dracula 1972 are probably my two go-to movies. And Taste of Blood of Dracula is right up there with them. What about yourself, Statto? Who's your favourite Dracula?
Let's see here, it's tough because I like. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, but I don't know that I like any one performance or story above all of them, because there are bits and pieces that I like from each movie.
Right.
And there are parts that just kind of like that I'm not a huge fan. Like I said, Jack Palance's performance versus that hideous Day for Night type stuff that they had in that movie, or the first third of the Gary Oldman movie. Where they were trapped in the castle. I thought it looked great. The makeup on Klaus Kinski, I'd say, let's see, Nosferatu, the original one, the silent one.
Right.
I liked the style of that one. I liked what they did there. The Christopher Lee, the first one, and Bela Lugosi. I think, because I mean that's the Bela Lugosi one's the perfect stage play adaptation.
Yeah, I do love Bela Lugosi's Dracula. I mean, it's like,
and he played that hundreds of times before anyway, so he had that locked down.
Yeah, and he's very, very funny in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
All the gothic sets in the Christopher Lee, they hammered that, like, that kind of world home.
That's what I forgot about.
David Niven Dracula movie, Bob.
Yeah, that's
which one was that?
Is that the one where he? It's not at all. It's another not politically correct Dracula comedy movie. Yeah. Oh, what's it called? Oh.
Old Dracula.
Old Dracula. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Have a few drinks before you watch that one, Pete. I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah. But yeah.
My goodness.
But yeah, so that's Dracula.
There was also another one where it was a weird thing because it was a TV movie, and it was like Vlad the Impaler. It was sometime around the early 2000s, late 90s. The Vlad the Impaler. So they went through the historical part, and then at the very, very end of the movie, might as well have been a biopic, but at the very end of the movie, he turns into a vampire.
Right.
It's kind of it was like called like Dracula, the true story. I can't remember 100% what it was called, but it was like all of his like war and like when he would impale people and stuff like that. And at the very end of the movie, something happened and somebody goes into his crypt and he's still he rises up and he's still alive and stuff. And so they took like the real Dracula and they kind of like blended it with Bram Stoker's.
Dracula. That kind of rings a bell with me, but yeah, but I don't. That's about all it does.
It was a TV one.
Vampira, yeah, that's what it was. I remember seeing it on TV. It was called Vampira. Yeah, that's the David Niven one. There's one that I missed out here that I don't know why I didn't include it, and it was the Japanese anime version of Tomb of Dracula.
Dark Prince, the true story of Dracula. That's what it was called.
Dark Prince, the true story of Dracula. Okay.
Well, there was actually in 2002 a silent movie from Japan or China that I still got to catch.
Right.
I don't know if you know about that one.
No, that's a new one.
2002. It was, I think it was Japan. It was called Pages from a Virgin's Diary, 2002. It's a very stylistic movie, black and white, done in all the most silent-y, directed by Guy Madden.
Right. Okay.
It's an expressionistic film. So that's one I'd forgotten about, but I was going to bring it up if for anybody that hasn't seen that one. Right.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to make a note of that. And yeah, the animated Tomb of Dracula. Don't get too excited, Peter. It doesn't really. It's
actually not on. It's on Tubi, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get it. It's on YouTube as well.
Which one? The Pages from the Virgin Diary?
No, the animated Tomb of Dracula.
Oh yeah, no, that
Yeah.
that silent one's on Tubi. Along with Count Dracula's on there too. I should watch that with Christopher Lee. I haven't seen that one.
Or
for a long time rather.
Yeah, but there's just seems to be even more Draculas than we thought there were.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I'm going to quickly jump to, I think after this show, I think everybody owes it to themselves to give this one a look. And I apologise beforehand before you do.
Curse you, Wullie! Curse you!
And maybe even give this a wee look as well if you haven't.
Or even find that scene on YouTube with Christopher Lee and save yourself the rest of the movie, possibly.
You could, but it's Peter Sellers and Ringo Starr, you know.
Oh yeah.
But that's us. I think we're all dragged out.
I think so. It was worth the wait. Done it.
Yeah, that's been fun. I enjoyed this. I think the last Christopher Lee one I watched was actually 1972. I watched it a couple of nights ago, and I think after watching it, I thought to myself, I need to watch Satanic Rites of Dracula, so I'll probably watch that at the weekend.
Well, you got Halloween movies now to watch.
I know there's a lot of Halloween movies, but that's the thing. It's like, how am I going to kind of fit them all in? Because 2 weeks' time, Death is going to come to our little town, and we're going to be talking about this chap here and the Halloween movies. Stab. Yeah. I found out today I don't have Curse of Michael Myers on DVD.
Do you have all of them?
I have them all. Yeah.
Even the new one, the 2018?
Yes, I have them all on DVD or Blu-ray, but I believe I've only got that on a dodgy VHS somewhere. I'll have a look, because I might have it somewhere. But yeah, I'm going to have to squeeze in a few Halloweens just to refresh the old brain cells when it comes to Michael Myers and Halloween.
Perfect.
That should be fun, and I think we'll probably be talking about a few other slashers that night as well, because it was very influential.
Oh yeah,
and we will indeed be talking about Halloween 3.
But Michael Myers isn't in that one.
It's not a real Halloween.
It's the Skyfall of Halloween movies.
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah. Oh God! Don't get me started. But that's 2 weeks. So yeah, that's thanks to everybody in the chat. It's been lively tonight.
Thanks
very much for joining us. We'll be back in 2 weeks when we'll be talking about Halloween, all the Halloweens. It'll be Slashtastic.
Looking forward to it.
Statto will be in the chat next week, I'm sure, but I'll be here talking to Peter Gilmore.
That's going to be great.
It's going to be horror-based as well, I'm sure. I already know what it is. But, we have a very similar taste, and we're going to be talking about the comics that mean something to Pete on that show. And that's next week.
Heavy Metal or 2000 AD, I'm sure, in there.
Yep, I believe I'll give you a wee taster already. It's going to be the House of Hammer.
Right.
Can you escape Hammer? There's no way. Yeah, but yeah, cool. But yeah, make a date for that, and then make sure to join me and Statto in 2 weeks' time, and we're going to dive right into the Michael Myers /fests that are Halloween.
So absolutely. It's going to be a nice episode.
Indeed. So that's us then. That's the end of another show. I didn't get kicked out of my own show this week.
Well done.
Yeah, no, that's pretty impressive. StreamYard's let me stay for the whole night.
That's wonderful.
So cool. So cheers, Statto. Thanks again for joining me on this journey through darkness. And thanks to everybody in the chat. We will see you all next week and in a fortnight with Michael Myers. So good night, everybody.
Good night.